there's any one thing we ought to be interested in, as far as ingesting it into our anatomies, it would be water. 70%, you know, approximately the body is made up of water. 70% of the Earth's surface is made up of water. There must be some reason for that. I'm as interested myself as you are in hearing our next speaker, because I've heard of his work in what I'll call, and he can call me on it, energizing water. I know he conducts conferences on the subject of water there in the Dallas area once a year, and you might be very interested in attending. So I'll ask him to mention that and when the next date is and that sort of thing. I think his story is typical of those advances that help mankind. They didn't come from any large corporation. They didn't come from any large funding effort or anything like that. That just kind of grew, and he's here to tell us more about it. And I think you're going to find it fascinating, interesting, educational, and helpful. Welcome, Joseph Bender, will you, of the Dallas, Texas area. Garland, I believe, to be specific.
Thank you very much. You guys have been enormously challenged already with incredible amounts of information in diverse ways. And so the fact that your brains are overloaded is totally understandable. Matter of fact, that's why the oxygen is so depleted in this room, is we have been sucking up the O's trying to process all this information. And so do work on, in the breaks, of going outside, getting some fresh air. What I want you to do now, though, is I want everybody to stand, because some of you didn't get an opportunity, and take a nice, deep, full abdominal breath, bringing in the air. And let's start pulling in some energy, all from about a 5-block radius. Let's just pull it into this room, okay? And release. And what I want you to do is look to the side in your mind and see a little nice safety box, a nice little treasure box, and open it up. And everything that you have learned thus far, I want you to carefully and lovingly place in that box so you can clear your head and be able to be a recipient of some information and hopefully wisdom. And just take a moment to say, this information I'm going to get back to, but right now I want to clear my head and my mind of all thoughts, taking a deep breath, and I want to be a recipient of whatever light and understanding you have for me now, Spirit. Baruch Hashem Kavod. Thank you. You can be seated. Indeed, what we have experienced at this conference is a bunch of information that has been languaged in incredibly diverse ways. And what I want you to realize is if you take anything that has been shared literally, you're going to miss out. If you take any of us that seriously, you're going to miss out. What you want to do is, especially though, did you guys have struggle with one or two presentations that kind of blew some of your circuits and some words came up and you didn't agree with those words? Anybody else besides me? Okay. The reason Dean has eloquently orchestrated a symphony of diversity is to break the logic circuits in our brains, to step back from language, from our culture, from our understanding, and learn how to have soul resonance with truth. I don't care what language is used, how it's shared. What I want to do is resonate with truth so that I can receive truth. And I don't care if what this person says is 95% his own ego, his own struggle, but there is 5% of reality in his words I want to receive by resonating, by understanding that truth so that I can be a whole sacred human. And so I ask you now to join with me. Don't believe anything I'm about to share the next hour. Literally, don't let the language block you from receiving what your soul needs. Because water is the ultimate information carrier that stands between all the worlds. From the cosmic kingdom, this belt of glorious water transduces energies that would fry us up and translates that energy down into a usable energy for the mineral kingdom. The mineral kingdom takes their earthing, wonderful, mothering energies and imparts it via water to the plant kingdom. The plant kingdom takes in the light. I call them the light drinkers. They drink in the light. They bind in ionic bonding the glorious light and create these marvelous substances in the chlorophyll molecule and the carbohydrates that transfer that life to the animal kingdom and to the human kingdom. All via water. Consciousness cannot exist in a physical vehicle without the presence of water. And so, water in the new millennium, in the millennium that we are as co-stewards in our work and effort are trying to bring in, will be the ultimate information storage mechanism. In one drop of water, you can hold a terabyte of information. There are people right now that are making not only yes and no's, but ands and nor gates in drops of water by structuring that water. Water is the only substance that transports into the cell. All the other foods and mechanisms impart their resonance to the water so that the water can carry it into intercellular tissue. So the understanding of extracellular water and intercellular water, that talk we had yesterday, is essential if you want to see the biological transformation of your being. Not only health, but to be the full recipients, the water vessels that can hold the level of light that will transmute the darkness into the great light. That's our work. And it happens with water. When we understand water and what it holds, what water's made of, we'll understand it's the ultimate energy source that we need. We need look no further. All these other energy over unity systems are simply to get us to focus on what water can do. There isn't a plant out there that doesn't provide an over unity model. Scientists have measured the input of energy, the photons, the minerals absorbed from the soil, and there's more mass, there is more energy output than the input of energy. When are we going to get it? When are we going to start looking at the Creator's models and begin to find resonance so that we can make the technologies that will save us, that'll get us away from the destructive, explosive energies that exist within our culture now and break down the whole system. And when we return to the beautiful feminine implosion energies that allow us to renew our spirit while we're powering our homes. That the light, the physical light, doesn't just provide us mere physical light in the single spectrum of visibility, but it provides the whole spectrum of light that reminds us of our mission as sacred humans. As more and more individuals begin to spend their research time and effort into the holographic model of the human being, they realize that water is the way energy transfers. Whether we're inducing that energy from an external field, rife technology, anything through the electromagnetic spectrum, magnetic pulsing, geomagnetics, photon energies, what is taking place is the water in the body is being structured or energized to allow a change. I just finished a research for a company that's making geoshields. Since there's an increased electromagnetic pulses that are coming, geomagnetic stress. The Earth was operating at this beautiful 0.5 hertz to about 15 hertz frequency range, and you can get the geomagnetic chart models and see this. There was a cycle which creates the Schumann, when it balances out off the ionosphere is where we get our Schumann resonance, which is a balance point between these energies. But what's happening is, as you look at the charts, in a algorithmic rate, we're seeing higher and higher stress levels in the Earth. Higher and higher frequencies are being created in the geomagnetic stress, along with all these nuclear power plants and all these other things that create spikes. And what we found out was, we knew this stuff was making people unhealthy, but we didn't know what the mechanism was. We found out. It raises the surface tension of the water in the body. It destructures water. It de-energizes water. How many are researchers here? Are doing any kind of research? Okay? Shame on the rest of you. Take hold of your stewardship. We're all here to discover something and to give it to one another. So how many are researchers? Let's re-raise some hands. All right, good. I like talking to researchers. Water has this marvelous ability to take any energy throughout the electromagnetic spectrum. And you'll have to forgive me, I just found out about 10 minutes ago that two-thirds of my slides were not in this case, and which is how I do my presentation, by reminding. So I'm probably going to forget a lot of things. If you're willing and wanting to put on, I'm going to put on a workshop tonight. My focus, I thought, was more on the Kabbalistic model of how to use the Kabbalah as a research tool, whether you're researching your own personal success and integrating all the elements. Because right now, sometimes, don't you feel like sometimes you got this big cracker barrel and all this stuff just kind of gets chunked in there, and then you're like digging through it saying, oh, what was that breathing technique I learned 6 years ago? Does that have anything to do with what this guy was sharing here? Well, the Kabbalah is a filing system of consciousness that allows you to put the pegs in the holes and begin to go, aha, this is how I can use this and this. I use it for all my research. I use it for my marketing plans. I use it for everything I do. The tree of life is a metaphor, a languaging to help me understand how things come into manifestation, how energy becomes matter, how matter returns to energy. There are many languages, and I can use if I talk about water and I'm talking with biochemists, I talk biochemical language. If I'm talking to alchemists, I talk alchemaic language. All these languages have a beautiful phasing of understanding that you don't get in the other language. A nuclear physicist can tell me things about water, especially when we're talking about photonic interaction in hydroxyl relationships, that a chemist would never get. And so it's difficult sometimes because you got to make sure you use their terms and their languaging. But remember, language limits. By the way, when you were born, you were 89% water. or excuse me, that's the brain. You're 89% water. The brain's 97% water. Okay, that's what you are when you're a neat, awesome spirit baby going, woohoo! But guess what happens? Guess when you do your major dehydration? When your brain lateralizes through the acquisition of language. Hear me now. Because language limits our intelligence. And all your life, you have been limited by language. That's why I love the multi-languages. Here's people with whole sets of realities and language speaking to us up here to break those circuits, to give us the language of resonance so we can get it. So we can let go of our concepts, our light blocking, the husks we call it in Kabbalah, that block the light. Okay, let's talk a little about water. A little Alchemy 101. When you're working with water, and I want everybody in this room to work with water, whether you're just at home or whether after working with it, Spirit tells you to do anything else. But all of our work is water related. You know, at night, in many traditions, you put a glass of water, a bowl of water by the bed. In my tradition, in the Hebraic tradition, we have a bowl and a thing right by our bed. In the morning, the first thing we do is wash our fingernails because the Sephiroth, the tree of life, is mimicked in the hand, and the returning, when our spiritual being returns into our body, all the nice little dirty uglies like to come along for the ride. And by washing them free, this is where our armor is. It's a spiritual concept, a mystical concept. So I wash the hands, you know, and say a certain blessing. At the end of the Shabbat, which is tonight, interesting enough, we take a special multi-braided candle, and we light this candle, and the room fills up with this glorious light. And all the spiritual revelation we received on this day of stepping out of time and into eternity is symbolized or drawn into that candle. And we take our fingernails and we fill ourselves with the light. And say, Lord, may we bring messianic understanding into our week. May we have the 8th day, which is that millennial promise of a changed society. And so all these traditions give us, when you understand their mystical meaning, practice. I highly recommend that you create whatever traditions and rituals that'll help bind your spirit to who you are and to help you remember you are a unique, wonderful being. There was a million other little spermies that said, we cannot do what you did. You said, I am going to come down and do some work here. Let's wake up. Let's drink a fresh cup of water. I thought I was going to talk about water. Okay, ion-free water. We've got water's been around with us for quite a while, and the earth does make new water. Schauberger taught us that. Alchemists make water. If you know things about water, you can make it. But if you're taking water, you need to first ionically remove the ions, and then you need to biologically purify it through several modalities, light, ultraviolet lighting, thing from 250 nanometers down, ozone, several things that are here. By the way, I tried to, and there's probably some people that have some structured water products. I brought a few of them up here. I wanted to show you the vast array of things. There's symbols that if you measure structuring water, I have a complete lab where we have UV spectrometry, surface tensiometry, electron microscope, crystal. We look at structuring of waters. We look at the photons that the water emits. You can take some water that's charged, put it in a black box, take a picture of it over a 48-hour period, and you can see how much light it's giving off. All water gives off light. We've spun it and vortexed it and watched. I actually have gotten sunburned by water before. So here's examples of waters that have been energized, and then you put water in here, and the photonic coupling of this water will transfer some of the information domains. But remember, water is water. So water will always dance to whoever is playing the music. And there are, unfortunately, a lot of people saying, yeah, we structured water. It's structured forever. Well, then it ain't water. Because water seeks to work with the rhythms and energies around it for the transferring process. Now, we can enhance the memory and hold through certain ionic doping that creates a reflective resonance by creating right boundary layers, by continuing to input certain frequencies that can be radionically and otherwise transmitted into the water. I work for a lot of companies. I work for some biomed companies designing waters. By the way, mainstream science is grabbing this. I was not too long ago in a room full of PhDs from UC Irvine doing a project with type 2 diabetes where we've structured water to go into specific places. And I can't speak their language. Matter of fact, I would say something, and they would start writing differential equations on the board and talking in a language that I couldn't understand. And I was going, I just said that? And I finally said, guys, I don't understand why you're listening to me. And they said, because we've done years of research to come to a conclusion. And Yosef, you're right there. We don't know how you do it, but keep talking, keep sharing. And what I want to tell you tonight is that you have that same ability, that we can awaken within each of us as we learn how to open ourselves up to divine resonance, to sympathetic vibration, which is love. All it is, it's love. When you love something and you let the ego step aside to try to know something. I don't understand water. I love it. She reveals her mysteries. If you listen to her, if you shut the jabber up here up long enough to just stay with her. Oh, that we would step into our feminine place and be the womb for the sacred waters to breathe their energetic teachings to us. And then the sacred human would be restored. Once we get water ionically free, biologically free, it still holds memory domains. You can do gross memory domains erasure through taking and flip-flopping magnetic fields, always ending up with a north at the end of the chain. But basically what you're doing is polarizing. Water is you've got your hydrogen and your oxygen, which I would have a slide for this, but one is paramagnetic, one is diamagnetic. So magnetic influences have a great influence. Every time I mix water with a gas, do a gas-liquid interface or an exchange of energies, I'm always magnetizing both the gases and the water so that there's greater mixing. But in memory-free, you can chop up the grosser domains. By the way, don't ever get magnetics near homeopathics. I have seen doctors sitting there trying to drive a homeopathic into a person using magnetics. You blow out the energy fields in a homeopathy, which is simply a structured water. How many know what homeopathy is? Okay, for those that don't, if I put a bee venom on my hand, I would start creating skin irritation. I take a drop of that, 100 drops of water, 1,000 drops of water, and I do a process of succussion where I'm actually putting energy into the water, sonic and physical energy. There is an energy transfer, and then I dilute that again. I dilute it at least to 6 times. Where then if I were to take that to a chemist, and I say, chemist, could you tell me how much bee venom is in here? It'd be less than 1 mole. He wouldn't be able to measure any chemical action. And yet at that point, this substance would do the opposite, 180 degrees out of phase of the original substance. When we're doing memory transfer, we have to understand phasing. How the energy will flip-flop is very important because sometimes you need to go one more step to get it back into the phase to allow it to transfer to the resonant mechanism, whether it be a cellular process or an environmental cleanup if we're talking about breaking down a complex chemical chain through. So water density is everything. Water temperature is everything. Resonance, when you're doing some real serious work, a 0.001 degree can mean the difference between awesome success and stuff that will blow your socks off. Like IBM, you don't release this stuff because it would undermine your own thing. When everybody's ready, this kind of stuff is going to come through. There are some really incredibly deep people doing incredibly real work on this planet right now that when the time's ready, these things will be revealed. But for now, let's all grope together with what we know, and let's all get our knowing and relationship to water, this thing that keeps your consciousness in a body. Aging, by the way, is slow cellular dehydration. That's all it is. That's why we wrinkle when we get old. When we die, we're about 65% water. When we get below that level, when our cells don't have enough energy to structure the water molecules, when our brain, which is all water, can't have that plasma put water into the 4 states of matter, solid, liquid, vapor, and plasma. Plasma is where consciousness comes in. Vapor state is higher learning. The liquids and solid states give us organization and structure within the electromagnetic mechanisms within our human system, and connect us to the chemical bodies and biochemical structures that are within our body. So, characteristics of flow and implosion vortex. What we've got to understand the difference between male and female, between receptive and giving in our energy systems, in our research, in anything we're doing. Another incredible carrier that's often not understood with structured and energized water is the gas-liquid interface. As water takes on energy and coherence, you increase the gas-liquid interface. You increase the amount of dissolved gases that can be put in water. In 1986, I came out with an oxygenated water. Okay? I didn't call it oxygenated water. It was an energized water. But because it was energized, it held way more levels of oxygen than normal waters. Rain Fresh Water in Dallas, Texas. I spent the next 5 years being glued, screwed, and tattooed by every large company. And as you know now, oxygenated waters all across the United States. Some of those companies I put love and effort in, and I've got a nice thick contract with zero return. But actually, the return was great because I alchemaically realized where people were stuck. And for everyone out here, because I know we all share this experience, until I found the love to forgive those that had burned me, for all the devices and things that I've shared that have been ripped off, until I had such love for them, I was stuck in my stuff, and I didn't want that to happen. I wanted the light to still come in. And so I ask you right now, if you've been hurt and burned by somebody, forgive them for your sake. Love them for your sake. Get free of that destructuring energy in your body that pulls the water back into chaos. Instead, is bringing it into order so it can be a recipient of light. Anyway, when you're working with resonance, it's important to understand the concepts of dimensional saturation. Usually, what I call sound and light, and I call sound everything below in the absorption spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum. Then you've got, this really cool anomalous point. If you guys look on a chart, pay attention. There's an awesome bridge point between the absorption spectrum and the emission spectrum that some really neat stuff can happen. Anyway, and then you've got the emission spectrum, which are light-based technologies, whether you can physically see those light domains or not, or you start learning how to see those light domains at higher order levels. So we need a subharmonic of sound and an overtone of lights to create a dimensional saturation, a resonant point that travels across a wide spectrum that creates enough cavity resonance within the water molecule to create true consciousness binding to the ions and the electrostatic energy necessary to maintain the cohesion of that energy in water for a given period of time. Once water stops moving, it starts dying, though. Once you put it in a bottle, the process is breaking down. And so there is going to be, people come to me all the time. I mean, every energetic water that has been out there, at least weekly, I get someone to send me their energetic water, and I run it through the tests. And they go, is this the one? Is this what I'm supposed to be drinking? Is this the perfect energetic water? And I go, is there a perfect song? I love music, but if I hear the same song over and over and over again, it starts to annoy me, doesn't it? You see, there is a vast array. The piano is the water. It's the carrier. And how you learn how to send energies into it, and I'm going to teach you all how to energize water in a few minutes that can do more than the $500,000 that I have spent on pieces of machinery that litter my lab. See, I needed these little teachers because I was dumb and I wasn't getting it, and so that's what the technology basically is like, duh. You externalize it so you can kind of get it on the inside. Multi-octave frequencies are an important way to get dimensional saturation so you can get lasting fields to transfer into biological mechanisms. And then the last thing on there is holding. I'll go over this in a little more detail during the seminar, the workshop, because I've already got how many minutes left, and I'm got 4 slides in. See, that's, huh? Okay. Disassociation. You got to learn how to take water apart. Basically, that was quick, wasn't it? This guy's really cool. Carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. The Holy Trinity on the material plane. To understand their relationship and interaction is to understand manifestation of all life processes. Let me Nernst equation. I want you to start looking at water, at molecule chains. Go to a chemistry book, a biochemistry book. You don't need to understand it. Just look at it and stand back and get resonance with what's happening. What is this telling us? All you see here, basically, with the exception of the center holding point, is structured water around an ion that holds information domains that allows the light to transfer into the water so that we can digest. And if I had my other slides, I could show you how that carbohydrate is broken down into simple sugars and how those simple sugars are broken down into cellular food. And basically, we digest the light. We use the oxygen. Oxygen is the energy transporter. And when you understand its reduction and exchange and electron sharing principles, you understand why we use oxygen to exchange energy. It's not really the oxygen itself, it's the carrier. It's the feminine that is birthing in and out these processes. Hydrogen is the father of all elements. From the hydrogen resonance, you can produce any energy. Matter of fact, we started creating matter in one of our, by accident. We were disassociating water, and I used the wrong kind of electrolyte, and we started creating this mass, and we were like, whoa. And so we brought in all the physical scientists, chemical scientists, and they said, well, it's got to be, your colloids, you're making colloids, and it's probably coming off the plates. So what we did was we took the plates, the nuts, the bolts, the wire, we measured everything, we dried out our mineral solution, weighed that, all on precise scales, put it all together. We quit the experiment when we made 12 times the mass that we started with. It's there for us. Anyway, we got to understand, oh, there's too much here. Workshop time. Let's get a couple good ones here for you. We heard in a speech yesterday the symmetry of life. When frequency translates into geometric form, which is the crossover matrix to bring energetics into a material matrix, sacred geometry always begins to come into play. Relational geometry becomes into play. Phasing of energies, understanding phasing is so critical when you're working. That's why so many people create a device that has sensational results, but when they go to try to reproduce it, the thing doesn't produce the results that the original device is, because even the components at a higher resolution gave the proper phasing. Energy, if you could study this chart, this is Babbitt's atom, by the way, but any good clairvoyant, the energy fields around a body, anybody that begins to understand the boundary layer at which all energy forms, this egg, is the spatial place at which chaos can come into coherency given the right constructs. Anybody that is a genuine researcher that will take this as a tool and not as a toy, I will gift you with one. Now hear me. I don't want to give away toys. I want people that will make a commitment to their heart and say, I'm going to start studying and understanding water. I'll give you one of these. I don't sell them, I give them. So I want you to understand that the work before us cannot be done by a single human. I don't understand it all. I know invested in many people are the 12 codes of transformation that we all need to be drinking. One of our projects I'm working on is called the Village Well. I am building energetic machines that have the capability of energizing water to combat the coming biological wave that is going to hit our world. As the light is pouring through, the darkness is getting very agitated and excited, and they're going to do whatever they can to slow that progress. These little village wells go to any self-sufficient community of people that have made the sacrifice of individualism to step out of the material realm and begin to bind together in a community of love. If you know of such place, please get in contact with me so that we can empower them with a healing well so that they will become the center of light in the coming darkness. And they will be given a living water so that those that are thirsty for the true waters of life can begin to taste, at least at the physical level, the transformation that's going on. Chart you'll see later. So, the tree of life is the model. I make no apologies that I am a Orthodox, Messianic Kabbalist who stands before you saying that when you can let go of all of our belief systems, we all got to let go of them because they limit us from receiving the light. And when we can say a hearty amen to the soul resonance with one another, yeah, the other stuff will come up. And then when we begin to lay hold of this mystery, when water becomes sacred, right now, water is what we dump our refuge in. Oh, how can we understand our consciousness had gotten so far down that we think water, the most sacred and holy gift to mankind, is something that we can flush a toilet? We are missing what God is trying to tell us. So I want to restore the sacredness of water to your hearts today. And I want to show you how you can take whatever water, wherever your knowledge is, increase your knowledge. Increase your knowledge of purification. Increase your knowledge of energetic waters. Buy energetic waters. But most importantly, I want you to take that water and whatever knowledge you have, and I want you to put your hands around that cup. And I want you to learn how to resonate and love into that cup, because you can do more than any machine I've developed. You can do more than any Turkish water, pie water. And bring in the experts, the little kids under 6. Put glasses all the same color, please, because they like colors. They're really into color energy. And say, which one is the special one? They'll never miss it. Women, 6, 7 out of 10. Men, we got to wake up, guys. We got to let these women teach us the space and step into the true femininity. Women, please don't give up what you have and get it caught up in that male ego stuff. So, the tree of life is an incredible mathematical, geometric metaphor to allow us to structure consciousness. The 10 Setharoths are whole spheres of consciousness understanding connected by 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. These 22 letters are intelligences to connect us to these things. I love the work of Stan Tenen, who shows the geometric metaphors of life. You take the coil, the perfect spiral mathematically set out, you put energy across that coil, like light energy, and project it on the wall, and as you phase it, as you turn it to different angles, the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the intelligences, show up on the wall. So even the ancient masters, in the script itself, there are codes there. There are geometric codes in whole sentences of the Torah. You know of all the work with the Bible codes and all these things. You can look at the Torah from so many different angles and get access into these codes, these revelations that connect us enough in our earth body to be recipients of the higher octaves of light. Here are 2 books. I'm going to leave some of this stuff up here. This is a book all on water alchemy. How to grow water, how to separate water into its sexes, how to create animal, minerals, or vegetables out of water alone and conscious intent. The making of the golem of the 12th century Kabbalists was about how to take consciousness into vibration using ions and water to breathe in consciousness and actually animate to see if they could get it. If they got the lesson, they would temporarily animate and make an artificial consciousness being. Not that I recommend that. I think we don't have time for such fun and games. It's time to start really creating some real change in our teaching and our work. A lot of you are doing it. You're speaking life into people and structuring their waters. There's no different. It's so cool. I do every now and then. I do a kind of a fun experiment. What I do is I program in a little information in water, and I'll send it. Like one time there was this over tension office that every time I went in there, I mean, the energy was just like, how could they live in this stuff? So I said, okay, Lord, let's see if we can, at the molecular level, bring in a little teaching. So I kind of put a newsletter in the water, okay? And we just kept delivering it. And about 4 months later, I came in there, and the boss, the key yeller, goes, it is the weirdest thing. Everybody, we're drinking far less coffee than we've ever drank in this place. And we all stand around this water cooler just feeling good. I love those double-blind studies because they really encourage you in the work. So tonight, what we'll do, for those that you want, and please sign up immediately so I can kind of read the names and kind of get a feel of which direction we can go. Obviously, we have weeks' worth of stuff in this brain that would love to share it if it'll create a true impartation of knowledge. There is no secret I have about water that I'm not ready to share with someone that will sacredly hold that space and be faithful with it. It's time that we let go of the greed mechanisms within ourselves that try to hoard and say we've got something outside of our brothers and sisters. Let's let go of that stuff that hinders us from getting all the message, from getting the light within each other, from really creating change. Everybody on the planet needs to be drinking structured and energized water and not this chaotic chemical soup that they are being fed. There's a 270% rise of childhood problems and autisticity. Why? Because they're drinking the most chaotic garbage of our poor consciousness, our stuff. Start loving water. Stop pouring stuff down your sink. Become a holder of this mystery. Make holy water. And I'll teach you one of the ways we make a really neat holy water by making a true memory-free water. And there's a process that you, if you're doing any homeopathics, any high energetic works, I can show you tonight, if that's where we want to go, how to make a completely memory-free water. So, we've got 5 minutes left, and is that the questions included? Okay, so let's, one or two questions, and I want your questions not to be for you, but to be for the whole group, something that you think will help spur our thinking to help open us up. Or do I have you all kind of numbed? How do you make energy water? By any appropriation of any types of energies throughout the electromagnetic spectrum, water will resonate or dance with. There are certain resonances that have positive biological benefit. There are some energetic waters that are highly energetic out there that have a negative biological benefit. One or two people will be benefited by it. The rest are suffering, and they're drinking this energetic water because they feel something. What they're feeling is not good. So energizing water is not necessarily the answer. It's understanding how that creates a biological support, a life-enhancing process. To stabilize that energy is a whole other science, and that's really where the real work is about, is learning how to stabilize the energetics in water so that it'll transfer to our biological mechanisms.
Yeah, I was very fortunate in meeting Schumberger. He didn't speak English and I didn't speak German, but we still got along through a translator. He said a generator didn't gen, an alternator didn't alter. And he explained a lot of things to me, but one of the things he couldn't explain to me was how a fish could take and hold itself in a structured matter, a half of a heart, and could float up a waterfall, and could actually go backwards in 20, 30 knot water, could actually go the other direction. And he explained the shape of a heart that you've got in your pear-shaped bowl, explaining how that you could run water through a half of a heart and another half of a heart, and the things that you could get out of it in the way of energy was unbelievable. He did also explain something that was really unique, is the fact that if you have structured water, it will be slowly to build up the system, the whole body system and the immune system. But if you take unstructured water, if you've got any immune system at all, it'll kick it in the butt. So people that are drinking unstructured water do get a drainage. Like a battery, they just drain it to nothing. But I got some things I'll share with you, and I don't think this is the place right now, but we will later. But Schumberger was kind of one of the people that kind of formed my life.
And yes, I'm very familiar with this work. I work with Callum Coates now on certain things. By the way, if you want to experience the levitation energy of the salmon that sits there and charges his battery so he can make this levitation act of flying, guess what? It's available right here in this hotel. If you will take the hot water in your shower and turn it off, it's pretty close to 4 degrees C, and you've got to learn enough breathing exercises so that water doesn't freeze your butt off, and it'll actually become warm when you step into a high energetic state and do your breathing. So, do it in degrees. Don't just go all the way hot maybe, but get it where it really wakes you up, and start breathing until the water becomes warm to your whole body, a sensation of warm, and you will start to feel the energetics and absorb the energies locked in water, and you will start to fly.
We can actually see the crystals in the water. We can see the water when it freezes. We can see the water when it's a gas. And if we have a big enough camera, I think we could even take the pictures of steam. But I'll share some of those things with you.
Great.
Thank you.
Anybody that wants to contact me, again, I'm a very busy researcher. I don't have a lot of time for just chit-chat and people that are just interested in filling their brains up with more information. But I welcome any genuine stewards of this life-affirming energy to share with me, to exchange knowledge, to grow in learning. I would recommend first try to contact me through email. I get about 150 emails a day, but I will take the time and effort to answer every email. And then if there's need for a conversation, we can move to conversation later, but I'd prefer to do it via email right now. There's plenty of books and information that you can get. Thank you so much for your attention and love.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I know he's got a lot more. And one of the things I was thinking, he was talking about